Howdy, friend. Welcome to Homegrown. I'm your host, R.P. Smith. This week I was honored to be a part of an appreciation banquet for the Buffalo County law enforcement. My friend Tom Henning of Kearney had invited me to be a part of the banquet and asked if I could possibly come up with a poem. Appreciation for law enforcement is something that should come easy for me. In my nearly 50 years of driving, the overwhelming majority of my encounters with law enforcement have ended with no more than a verbal reprimand and encouragement to be more careful, what I consider an extension of grace. I remember explaining to my son as a Sherman County deputy was running my information through that I had been going too fast and that I deserved the ticket I was going to receive. After not receiving a ticket, the word grace came up in the conversation. Now, if a person had just been given a pardon for missing a stop sign, and the driver of the vehicle, obviously stressed by a carload of road-weary children, throws out the rhetorical question to the law enforcement officer, if you have a teenager shut in the trunk, are they required to be in a seatbelt? You may have pushed grace a little too far. And you should not assume the officer does not know the meaning of rhetorical just because he asks you to pop the trunk. My encounters with law enforcement in Buffalo County have been somewhat limited, although there was an incident north of town that could have turned out badly for me if it had not been for the willingness of area law enforcement to wisely seek additional assistance. I had pulled a load of damaged and outdated irrigation pipe from the ranch south of Broken Bow down to Triangle Metals. The aging ranch pickup pulling the homemade irrigation pipe trailer probably had a top speed of around 35 miles an hour. The pickup, a 3/4-ton Dodge equipped with a Hemi engine, has the fuel mileage cut in half if you're towing a lariat or anything larger on the back bumper. I'd stopped at Glenwood Corners north of Kearney to invest my bounty from the load of aluminum into a tank of gas before making the trip back northwest to the ranch. I'd used my credit card at the pump, but somehow there had been a lack of connection in the transfer. I was frustrated that I hadn't been able to get a receipt at the pump, but concerned about getting home before dark, I left the premises without going inside to pick up a receipt. Fleeing back to Custer County, now pulling an empty irrigation pipe trailer at the rate of speed possibly approaching 39 miles an hour. The reason I could not get a receipt was because the transaction had not gone through, and the staff at Glenwood Corners called in a DOWOPBGIH. This would be drive off without paying by a guy in hat. I do not know if the staff at Glenwood Corners had my license plate number or if some of my credit card information had gone through, but I had been identified. By the time law enforcement arrived at the scene of the crime, I could possibly have been as far away as Riverdale, 7 miles down the road. So the Custer County Sheriff's Department was notified to intercept the notorious irrigation pipe trailer fuel swiper. Custer County Sheriff Ted Henderson had a more reserved style of law enforcement than some of his predecessors, notably Sheriff Charles Penn, who, in his years of serving as Custer County Sheriff, investigated over 20 murders during his term in the 1880s. Sheriff Henderson, using knowledge of who he was dealing with and being well aware of my reputation, instead of making the trip out to the ranch to deal with the situation, simply called my mom and asked her to inform me that I needed to get my fuel bill taken care of. My mother is not one to contend with. Needless to say, the issue was soon resolved. I call this poem Salute for Your Service. Knowledge is power. For avoiding the drama, hold off on the SWAT team and call the perp's mama. All kidding aside, the reason we gather to show our gratitude and that your efforts matter. This part of the world, well, we think it's the best. Because of your dedication, we can have easy rest. Work our tasks two-handed, not wielding the sword. This appreciation event seems too small a reward for the unknowns that you face every day when you put on the badge and stand in harm's way, not knowing what's waiting beyond your front door. Trust in the Lord to bring you back home once more. So we say thanks to you, your kith, and your kin for the service you offer and the battles you win, for the faith you have that things will work out, and the gamble you take offering benefit of the doubt. Thanks for riding along on Homegrown this morning, hoping that the Lord blesses you real good today, that He is raining on your place, and that our happy trails cross again soon. I'm R.P. Smith.